Well, welcome to District 3 Tall Tales Contest. Tall tales include fanciful and greatly exaggerated people and events, such as when we were growing up, Pecos Bill or Paul Bunyan. And one way we practice our storytelling techniques is to compete in this Tall Tales contest. Tonight, the Tall Tales speech contest consists of a series of timed 3 to 5 minute speeches that will be judged by a panel of judges. The contest chair and the chief judge have confirmed the eligibility of all of the contestants and the judges. These proceedings are designed to be fair to everybody, and so that each contestant's given a level playing field on which to compete. The following announcements are made in the interest of having a distraction-free environment. The Zoom master will control your microphone and make sure that it is on mute. Just in case, also any of the contestants put all your cell phones and any devices can make audible noises off. There will be no other photography of the contestants. The district is recording this. And please do not create screenshot photos or audio recordings and post them on social media without obtaining the speaker's permission. Now, I know some of the clubs have their own pages, but you just be sure and check with the speaker before you post those. Once the contest has begun, members of the audience are asked to refrain from leaving and entering the online meeting. So anyway, the Zoom master will not allow anybody to enter once we actually start the contestants speaking. We've been told to have everybody turn their video off except for the speakers. Chief Judge, is that going to continue to be the rule tonight?
Yes, Dory? It is. And if timer 1 could please raise her virtual hand and leave it up.
Unfortunately, we found that rule out from international. So if you want to complain to them. So as you saw earlier in the conference, if you're new, if you just joined us to start with this Tall Tales contest, we show our appreciation since we can't clap by doing jazz hands, but without the video, it's hard to do. So we will do our best to appreciate our speakers. As the contest chair, I can tell you the contestants were briefed earlier in the week, and the speaking order for tonight will be given shortly. Madam Chief Judge, have all the contestant officials be briefed, and are we ready to proceed?
Yes, they have, contest chair, and let the contest begin.
Okay, a few more instructions. In order to allow the judges time to mark their judging forms, we will have a minute of silence after each contestant's speech. And at the end, there's going to be a very uncomfortable, unlimited silence until I get notification from the chief judge that all the ballots have been gathered. So tonight, the speaking order was drawn for earlier in the week. So here is the speaking order for tonight. The first speaker is Gayle Mingledorff. The second one is Karen Langford. The third one is Shannon Anderson. The fourth one is Malinda Sanders. And the fifth one will be Sharon Burlingame. Each contestant will be asked, is their microphone on and are you ready? Once they answer in affirmative, then I will introduce them by their name and their title of their speech, and then the title of their speech in their name after I pause. And now the first contestant can go prepare to get ready to speak. So is the first contestant, is your microphone on and are you ready?
Yes, I am, contest master.
All right. Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can.
All right. Gayle Mingledorff. Payback. Payback. Gayle Mingledorff.
It's South Florida in late April, and the temperature, of course, is 91 degrees and very humid. And there I was, standing in the middle of the Martin County Historical Society Museum's parking lot and yard, filled with antique cars. Now, rather than being in comfortable shorts and a lightweight shirt, I had on boots. I had on a long black skirt. I had on a long sleeve high neck blouse and a coat called a duster. To top it all off, I had authentic from the early 1900s goggles that were leather gloves, and of course the hat tied beautifully. This, Madam Contest Master, is called payback. I had borrowed the gloves and the goggles from the Historical Society for a vintage fashion show. And when I took it back, they said, you know, Gayle, that we have this car show, and wouldn't it be wonderful if you dressed up and walked around the grounds and greeted people? What could I say but yes? So here I was, dying. Those goggles needed windshield wipers. There's no ventilation. And then all of a sudden I realized there is a car barn that they have the most wonderful, oldest antique cars in. And guess what? It's air conditioning. And as fast as my booted feet would take me, I ran to that place, pushing people aside, opened the door, and all I could think of was, thank you for the person who invented air conditioning. I let it wash over me. And as I walked into the room, I thought, this is my home, because I had about 3 hours to go. As I walked around, I thought, I need to find a place to light. Then I spotted it. It was an authentic 1903 fire engine red Oldsmobile. Quickly, I jumped up into that totally open car, grabbed that steering stick, put my arm on the seat, and just froze. It was wonderful. On my right side, there happened to be a male mannequin that was dressed just like me. Well, I played mannequin, and people walked by and they weren't sure whether I was real or whether I was a mannequin. Well, sometimes I would break loose and talk to people, but I learned you only do that to younger people. The older people, they were going to have a heart attack or something. So there was this little boy that came up, and he was so interested, and I made up all sorts of things about the car. Some of them I knew, most of them I didn't. But I told him, I said, you know, this morning, my husband over here, Fred, and I had breakfast. We got in the car, and we decided to go for a ride. And then all of a sudden, we went through this whole cloud of smoke. And when we got to the other side, here we were in the museum. Well, he was fascinated. I said, I made the trip fine, but poor Fred, he didn't do so well. Well, he said, I have to go tell my father. He went and brought his father back. And of course, I played with the kid. I just stood there and pretended I was a mannequin, made him crazy. But then I told them all the story, and they were very happy. Well, after I did this for a while, I was having fun. All of a sudden, everybody was very still. And the interesting thing was, Fred, my mannequin husband, came to life. And he looked at me and he said, Gayle, that's a pretty good story, but my name is not Fred, it's Frank. I said, okay. He said, I need to show you something. Move over. So I moved over. He jumped in, took the stick, and off we went. We went through the cloud of smoke, and all of a sudden, we were in a very different time and space. There were people walking on the streets with their families, children playing in their yards. There were maybe one or two other horseless carriages like ours, but most thing I saw were horses. And Frank said, Gayle, would you like to go to dinner with us? I said, sure. So I went to their home, and we all sat around the table and we talked, and everybody contributed, children and all. And I thought, oh, you know, this is really nice. How I had missed something like this. And Frank looked at me and he said, would you like to stay? I thought about it. But finally I decided, no, I need to go back. He said, fine, but you know you can come back anytime. We jumped in the car. Off we went through the cloud of smoke, and there we were, back at the museum. Payback. Sometimes it's thought of as something very negative. But the next time you start to make an excuse, payback could be fabulous. Madam Kyle.
Karen, is your microphone on and are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Our next contestant, Karen Langford. The day Tom Hanks came to my rescue. The day Tom Hanks came to my rescue, Karen Langford.
Oh my goodness. I was never so embarrassed in my life. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, you are not going to believe what happened to me. Not too long ago, I had the absolute pleasure of speaking at a charity event. When I got there, someone met me at the back door, walked me through the building to the side of the stage where I waited for my introduction. I was pumped and I was ready. After the MC introduced me, I ran out on stage, shook her hand, faced the audience, and froze. I never thought to ask beforehand how many I'd be speaking to. There must have been over 1,000 people there. I have never spoken to a crowd that large before. Not only that, but when I look in the front row, who do I see? But none other than Tom Hanks. I have to give my speech in front of the Tom Hanks. I knew I had to start speaking, but when I tried to talk, the only thing that would come out of my mouth was, ha. I tried again, ha. Just then, Tom Hanks stood, and at first I thought he was going to leave before I could even hear me speak. But instead, he came up on stage, walked over to me and whispered, Karen, it's okay. I'll go ahead and talk for a few minutes until you can find your voice. You just let me know when you're ready. And then he proceeded to joke around with the audience. I was so flustered that I jumped directly behind him so that no one could see me. Of course, everyone started laughing. I didn't know what else to do, so I stuck my arms through Tom Hanks' arms and started gesturing as if my arms were his arms. Bless his heart. He noticed what I was doing, went with it, and put his hands in his pocket. As I became a little braver, I went to make this really grand gesture by pointing my finger straight up into the air, and to my horror, I stuck my finger right up Tom Hanks' nose. Time suddenly stood still. My first thought was, I've got Tom Hanks' DNA on the tip of my finger. My next thought was, I wonder how much I could get for it on eBay. As reality returned, I thought it might be a good idea if I took my finger out of his nose, but when I tried to pull it out, it would not budge. I got beside him. He put his hands on my shoulders. I put my one hand on his shoulder and my foot on his waist, and we pushed as hard as we could. We looked like two sumo wrestlers really going at it because we were all over that stage. After another moment or two, we each gave each other one final shove. My finger became dislodged and we went flying to the sides of the stage and landed on the floor. Dazed, we stood and looked at one another. I was absolutely terrified. I didn't have a clue what was going to happen next. But Tom Hanks got a twinkle in his eye. He started snickering and snorting, and then he started laughing hysterically. Me? I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry. Finally, Tom Hanks came over, gave me a hug, and whispered once again, Karen, you've got this. Go for it. Then he kissed me on the forehead and went back to his seat. I'm left staring at the audience. The audience is staring at me, and now I'm thinking, okay, I just made a really big fool out of myself, so what do I have to lose? I began my speech and I gave it my all. I had that audience in the palm of my hand. When I was done speaking, Tom Hanks stood and started applauding and everyone joined him. I couldn't believe it. After everything that just happened, I was getting a standing ovation and I drank it all in, even though I know part of it was probably for Tom Hanks. My friends, it is an experience that I will never forget, and I will always, always be grateful to Tom Hanks for giving me that moment on stage. Now, whenever I have to give a speech anywhere, I have to remind myself, what do I have to lose? And I give it my all. Contest chair.
Shannon, is your microphone on and are you ready?
It is on and I am ready.
Shannon Anderson, the office demon. The office demon, Shannon Anderson.
You guys are not going to believe what happened to me. So the other day, I'm working on a Word document and I'm trying to get the margins aligned and I had to get these paragraphs spaced and I had to do columns and I was getting so frustrated that I said some words and I made some hand motions and I summoned an office demon. Now, I know he was an office demon because he was about 7 foot tall, bright red skin, curved horns, business tie, a shirt that was both straining the buttons but still kind of wrinkly, shorts that were not appropriate for the workplace, and Crocs and socks. Now, because he was an office demon, he was really good at some of the things I have to do every day. He helped me with my Word document, and you should see the Excel formulas that this guy could write. Absolutely amazing. But because he's an office demon, he was also really good at torture. And I found myself doing things that just aren't me. For example, when I send an email, I usually start it off with good morning or good afternoon. Well, he replaced that with in all caps, as per my last email. And I didn't realize it until I started getting hostile emails back from my coworkers. I also started bringing in things for lunch like Brussels sprouts and cooking them in the office microwave and then letting the smell kind of waft through the floor. And then when they were done cooking, I wouldn't even eat them. I just leave them in there, turn around and take somebody else's lunch out of the office fridge. I also found myself standing behind coworkers, looking over their shoulder, watching them work, sometimes eating an apple, one that kind of sprays when you bite into it. And just when they'd get used to it, I'd wait for them to hit that flow, that moment of concentration where everything is so efficient to go, hey, you got to check out this YouTube video I saw last weekend. Now, I thought because he was an office demon, he would stay relegated to the office. But I guess now with work from home, he followed me home. And he started doing things like in huge meetings with hundreds of people, he would unmute me just at the right time so that everyone in the meeting was able to hear me say, wow, that guy is a real donkey. He would also randomly turn on my camera while I was doing things that may not be able to see on camera, like scratching my nose. And maybe the worst, in really, really important meetings, I'm talking SVP, VP, director level meetings, he would change my background into things that were so inappropriate. Oh my God, I am so sorry that you have to see this. I am so sorry. So look, I get it. I understand as the HR professionals that you are, you had to call me in today to talk to me. Like, I get it. But as I think I've proven, it wasn't me. It was the office demon. Madam Contest Master?
Malinda, is your microphone on and are you ready?
But I can't unmute. All right. Yes, it is now, and I have been able to unmute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Malinda Sanders, Charlie's brown bottle. Charlie's brown bottle, Malinda Sanders.
Thank you, Jerry. Welcome, everybody. Bonnie, I'm glad to see you all this evening here in my picture about telling y'all about Charlie and his brown bottle to tell about it even. A brown glass bottle like this one. It can hold a lot of things. One of the things that it can hold is a secret. It can definitely hold at least one secret. Now, let me tell you about the guy that owned this particular brown bottle by the name of Charlie. Charlie lived in rural Tennessee. The year is 1940. And Charlie has a brown bottle a lot like this. Now, and he doesn't drink alcohol. No, he doesn't. Absolutely not. But truth be told, Charlie would have been a drunk if it hadn't been against his religion because he loved to taste liquor better than anything else in this world. Now, Charlie's religion might not have let him drink, but it did let him take medicine. And so Charlie used to make his own medicine in a bottle just like this. He used to make rock candy cough syrup. Now, rock candy cough syrup, in case y'all haven't had that before, is just plain old rock candy and plain old good whiskey. And you put it in this bottle together and you shake it up real good. And then you leave it on your cabinet. And over time, the candy melts in there. And every now and then, when you get a little cough, why you can pick it up off the shelf and have your little swig, and by golly, your cough on and you feel a whole lot better. So that's what Charlie did. He kept in this bottle, this brown bottle, his cough syrup, his cough medicine that he made. Well, now Charlie living out in the country like he did, he grew a garden, and of course, so did his neighbor. So he goes to visit his neighbor one day. They're going to swap some vegetables, from one garden to the other. And so he goes to the neighbor's house. They sit there in the kitchen for a little bit after they swap their vegetables, have a little pie, a little coffee, and catch up on, the community goings on like you do. And then when they're finished, the neighbor decides to run outside, just take the scraps to the dog, you know, like you do. And he goes out there. And so he's out there for a little while. And Charlie kind of got a little tickle in his throat. And he thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do right now, but I kind of wish I had some cough syrup. Well, he sees a brown glass bottle sitting up on the neighbor's shelf. It looks a lot like the one he keeps his cough syrup in. And so he decides, well, I don't think my neighbor would medicine. So he reached up there and he uncaps it and he takes a great he really commenced to hacking and carrying on then rock candy cough syrup. Well, the neighbor hears the commotion and runs back in and thinks, Charlie, what have you done? He sees this bottle in his hand and he sees the spit on the plate, looks at him and he says, my God, Charlie. Well, now, dip, y'all, is stuff that it's an insecticide. It's going to kill lice and all kinds of other stuff off sheep, but you're not supposed to drink it. It's got arsenic in it. That'll kill you. I'm sure y'all already know that, but it'll kill you dead if you ain't careful. So what happened? Well, the neighbor was just beside himself. It's just really bad Southern hospitality to let somebody croak in the middle of your kitchen. Not to mention the fact that if he did, Charlie was probably going to haunt the place if he died right there. So the poor neighbor, you can't go to the emergency room in 1940s Tennessee. So the poor neighbor pulls out everything he can think of that's a home remedy for anything and gives it to him. He made a few up on the spot. And then he gets worried and thinks, maybe we should call the doctor. They call him. So they do. And they tell the doctor what happened. And they tell the doctor everything that they had given him. Raw egg, drink a little milk of magnesia, even a swig or two of turpentine. And the doctor says, well, Lord have mercy. If what y'all gave him don't kill him, he should be fine. Well, I'm glad to report that Charlie was as fine as he would ever be. And my moral of my story now has two things to it. One, don't touch stuff that isn't yours. And two, when you're picking your poison, make blame sure you know which one you're picking. Thank you.
Sharon, is your microphone on and are you ready?
I believe my microphone is on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I am ready.
Sharon Burlingame. Life is a beach. Life is a beach. Sharon Burlingame.
Toastmasters, guests, have you ever heard the phrase, life is a beach and then you die? That was one of my mother's favorite go-to phrases, cleaned up here for polite company. Unfortunately, Mom had to leave her home on the beaches of Fort Lauderdale in the early roaring 2020s to begin her forever journey into the great beyond. Mom had always envisioned the afterlife as an endless beach met by clean oceans on one side and boundless, lively bars on the other. Inhabitants were armed with puns, not guns. A couple months into her afterlife journey, Mother Shirley was reunited with her pet hen, Regina, my dearly dearly departed hen. They were strolling along a beautiful beach after finishing their picnic when they happened upon a bustling bar. A sign above the entrance read, "Check your puns at the door." Mom was thirsty and she had come armed to the hilt with her rhetorical devices. She grabbed Regina and through the door they dashed. A buxom bartender noticed the eclectic pair. "Hey, y'all, we don't serve chickens in here." Mom glared at the barkeep. "Well, that's a relief, because I came in here for a beer with a shot of tequila on the side. Make that a double. Entendre, please. And bring my cool chick here an eggnog with rum." "Surely you don't expect me to serve alcohol to your clucking chicken?" "Hey, how did you know my name was Shirley?" "Is that so?" "Yeah, but back on Earth, I was known as the notorious G.I.G.G. Why, in nearly 40 years living in Southern Florida, I never once left my apartment during a hurricane. While I just pad my closet with pillows and blankets and grab my stash of crackers, soup, my water, and my propane stove, of course, and I'd hunker down until that hurricane was over. During Hurricane Dorian, my kids called me and begged me to come north where I would be safe. My daughter, the professor, she told me to get a magic marker and write my name and her phone number on my belly so they could identify my body when it was over. That was the year I was swept out of my closet on the back of an alligator, holding my snacks in one hand and my propane stove in the other. Why, I was eventually rescued by a 6-foot pelican who picked me up and dropped me on a ginormous sand dune that I later found out was a prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex. Why, that T-Rex was the great-great-great-great-granddaddy of my chicken Regina. I hiked 5 miles home, and when I got there, I called each one of my kids on my landline to treat them to tales of my treacherous travels. Where y'all headed to now? Why, to the ocean, of course. I was hoping to swim naked with the dolphins. But to be honest, any pro football team will do. The barkeep shook her head as she watched the spicy old woman and her exceptional hen leave the bar. She hollered after Mom, "Y'all welcome to come back tomorrow. But if I were you, I'd leave that chicken at home, seeing how it's Friday and all." The next day, the barkeep had hung a new sign above the entrance to the bar. It read, "Death is a beach, and then you live."
All right. That's the most uncomfortable silence in the world when you have 79 Toastmasters sitting here. You always have somebody talking. Gayle, we want to get to know you better. Why don't you unmute your microphone and everybody can turn their video on if they want to. And let's give all of the contestants a round of applause. Gayle, did you get your microphone unmuted? No?
There we go.
There you go. So now while the ballots are being tallied, we're going to get to know our contestants a little bit more. Gayle, I'm kind of interested, especially since you mentioned Historical Society. Do you get involved with historical or genealogical societies now?
Not really, not intentionally. Not genealogical. I had a cousin that did that for me and traced my father's heritage back to the Salzburgers who came over in the 1730s. In fact, my family owns land in South Georgia and is finished renovating a house that was built in the 1770s before the Revolutionary War. And that has been interesting because we have the land grant, the original land grant from King George. That I had nothing to do with. It just fell in my lap, and I was one of the ones that was making it happen. But I just worked part-time for the Martin County Historical Society, and then I got caught up in having to, that's a true story. Not the going back in time, but actually all the rest of it was extremely true. And I was just dying out there, and I said, this is never they're gonna call 911 on me. But I had more fun sitting. I have a picture of myself in that 1903 fire engine red Oldsmobile. I had more fun. I love messing with people anyhow. So it was fun. It was a fun time while I was living in South Florida.
It does sound fun. You said that you are, that your favorite quote from Will Rogers is, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Why did you pick that quote?
Well, I think it takes me back to actually something one of my mentors always said, that when you want things to happen, you have to take action, because it's in the Gospels that Jesus said, knock, seek, and ask. He didn't say, make me guess. And so, I think it takes action on all of our parts to do something. And you will get run over if you sit there, because I believe that nature and everything else abhors inaction. Now, there are times to meditate, times to contemplate, times to get your thoughts together, and times to be peaceful. But I've also read that we're overthought and underdone. So I guess I'm just kind of a person of action, and that's my mantra.
Oh, that sounds good. All right, you can relax for a little bit. Karen, can you unmute your mic? Karen Langford. There you go.
Okay, let me exit out of that little box. Okay, I've got it. Breathe.
Exactly. How did you come up with that tall tale using?
I have no idea. For Toastmasters out there, we rack our brains trying to come up with things to talk about, especially in contests. And I've had a thing for Tom Hanks lately. He's in my book and he's in a couple of other, little scenarios. So one night I was laying in bed and the story just kind of popped into my head. I'm thinking, okay, well, that sounds like it might be interesting. And I just kind of went with it from there.
He's crashed people's weddings and other things like that. Just
he can crash my wedding if I ever had a wedding.
Yeah, he has. You said what inspires you the most is seeing the best in humanity and doing acts of kindness. Have you done random acts of kindness?
I try to do it all the time. I'm really big on that. I mean, you can do random acts of kindness anywhere. You can take someone's cart back for them. You can open a door for them. Just saying kind words, complimenting people. And there's a story that I saw, I don't know if it was in the newspaper or on a video, but it was about a man. He was really down on his luck and he jumped off a bridge to his death. And in his pocket, they found a note that said, if one person said one kind word to me today, I will not jump. And ever since then, I have never forgotten that. So a random act of kindness can lift people up, but the opposite is true, depending on how you treat people. If you treat people down, that could be their, last decision of no return. So it always pays to be kind.
Well, thank you. And you can go back on mute. And Shannon, can you unmute your mic? Or do I need to ask you here?
There we go.
Well, today you told us about the office demon. Do you have an office demon?
I think all offices have a little bit of office demons in every single person, depending on the day. So because my club is a work club, I thought it would be a topic we could all relate to, because I know there have been times when I've been working on something and I'm so concentrated and I feel like I'm about to make a breakthrough, and then somebody comes up behind you and stands beside your cubicle and you're like, oh, go away. But I know I do it to other people too. So I think we all have a little office demon in all of us.
Especially those that steal lunches, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't steal lunches. I will say that.
Oh, you said that what inspires you the most is being posed a problem to solve. Has Toastmasters helped you have some other problems to solve?
Every speech is a problem. I like most people, even if I've spoken a million times, even if I've done the same speech a million times, I still get nervous. So it's, overcoming that and facing it as a problem. What can I do? Take deep breaths, center yourself. I view it as every speech is a problem and it can be worked out. And you know, in my day-to-day life, I love having something to solve and something to tinker with.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Malinda, can you, let's see if I can find you to get you off of mute. Mr. Zoom Master, can you get Malinda off?
She is off of mute.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Now we
All
can hear you.
right.
Now.
Yay. Perfect.
Oh, all right. Well, how did you come up with Charlie's Brown Bottle?
I tell you, I didn't have to come up with much of anything. It's true. I know Tall Tale assumes that, you know, we're making it. I'm telling y'all a completely true story about Charlie, and he really did like to drink, and he really did make rock candy cough syrup. And he really did drink the sheep.
Well, you said that what
Like to
inspired,
kill him,
yeah.
drink, and he really rock candy. But
You said what inspires you the most is adaptability and resilience. Have you seen an example of that recently?
I think we've all seen a wonderful example of it in the past 2 years, amongst everything that's lived through. These are all excellent examples, just the way life has been over the past couple of years, just great examples of adaptability and resiliency. Because, for instance, you know, here in Toastmasters, we found a way to adapt. Everybody went online. Some of the meetings may have been already. Ours was part of, you know, more or less for folks that needed to be. Um, but, you know, we've all done that. And now things are back open again. And we've got kind of that resiliency. We found new ways of doing things. I don't know about you guys, but I work from home a little bit, but before because as a trainer in my job, kind of like a corporate trainer, um, you know, we found a way to put everything online all of a sudden, and I'm I'm glad of this because I am excited to stay there. I'm not gonna lie, I like working from home, you guys. I know a lot, and I understand the idea from Nicole earlier, and I would totally love to go to an in-person Toastmasters meeting, but I like being able to do so many other things with the technology that we have now. And I don't think we would have used it as much had we not been forced into using the technology. So thank you, Jerry,
Thank
for
you.
letting me go on for a minute there.
All right. Sharon, can you unmute yourself? This many people, I'm having trouble finding these people.
I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, there you go. There. Sharon, you say you involved in competitive swimming. Are you currently involved in it, or just something you have done in the past?
I'm currently involved. I never stopped doing it. And when you get older, they call you a master. Not the same thing as a master golfer because they make lots of money. But yeah, you're a master swimmer when you're over 20. And I do competitive swimming, like speed swimming, and also aquatic arts, synchronized swimming. I'm actually training for the National Senior Olympics that's happening next month.
Wow. So definitely you're still active in doing that then.
Yeah, so you can eat brownies, you know, if you don't do something like that, you can't eat brownies.
Yeah. You said you're inspired by people who lead by example and don't tell. Have you been leading by example somewhere, or have you had a leader that you really liked working with?
I try to lead by example. There's always a lot of room for improvement. And where I could tell where my errors were was when my kids started behaving the same way as I did in ways that I didn't like. I don't have a specific person that I single out. I look for it. There's too much talking the talk and not enough walking the walk. I want to see people do what they want others to do and keep their trap shut about telling everybody else what they should do.
All right. Well, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Zoom Master, do I continue on, or do you have some announcements that you need to make?
I could open the floor for some feedback on the Zoom mastery thus far. There were some kinks to work out, but like having people muted was new for us, and I'm wondering if largely that worked or not, particularly for the contestants. I guess you can't come on mute to tell me. Yeah, I'm asking all of you to unmute that I see. Where's the other?
I don't like it when you can't see the contestants.
Believe me, we were discussing that rather heavily among me.
So we found where that statement was recent. Like I remember somebody mentioning in the rules, but the rules that they cited were like 2 years old, back probably the early part of the pandemic. I don't know if we were able to find a reaffirming of that sometime this year. Maybe not. It's hard to see the body language across three. I've got to click. Oh, yeah, Gayle, sorry. You should be able to unmute now.
It really didn't matter to me. For me, it's hard to judge people's reaction on Zoom when you get so many little screens. So I'm always just trying to stay in time. That's the main thing I worry about. So it really didn't matter to me one way or the other.
Get that?
All right, the results to the Tall Tale contest is in. Our third place winner tonight is Karen Langford. And our second place winner is Shannon Anderson. And our first place Tall Tales for the District 63 is Sharon Burlington. Or Burlingame, I'm saying. No, yeah, Shirley Burlingame. She must have misspelled it. Sorry.